Hello everyone, my name is Rainey. So you're probably noticing right off rip how barren this room is and what a change of scenery this is compared to my station at work where I did the last guide. Now, if you or anyone you know would like to donate some custom fine art pieces for us to hang along the walls and make it look more homey, shoot us a message here or leave it in the comments below. You can DM me at Rainey Ovalle on Twitter, or you can DM the Hearse Boys account at Hearse Boys on Twitter. And the second thing, this guide is going to be much shorter than the first one because in the first one, I have to kind of explain the flow of this video series and why I'm doing it. And in this second one, I'm not going to do much recapping because I'm just going to assume that everyone watching this one has seen the first one. And speaking of recap, let's go ahead and get into that. If you haven't seen my last video, then definitely go and do that. But before that, if you haven't watched Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I want you to go do that now. Number 2, if you haven't seen Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, then I want you to go do that after you watch The Phantom Menace. Once you've seen both of those things, okay, I know there's a lot of homework for the second day at school, but bear with me, we're gonna get through this together. Watch my Season 1 guide in this video series. Then I want you to come back to this video. We're gonna give you guys some time to do that, all right? Oh, by the way, I know I explained this in the last guide, but let's just go over it one more time for good measure, right? You want to assume that Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka have some sort of presence in every single episode. And remember that the clone troopers, known as Captain Rex and the 501st Legion, usually accompany Anakin Skywalker. Commander Cody and the Seven Systems Army are usually going to ride with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Padme is usually with C-3PO and R2, and almost every Jedi has their own troop of clones. Plo Koon has the Wolf Pack. Luminara has the 41st Elite, and Kit Fisto has the coolest trooper name I have heard in this entire show. Kit Fisto's clone troop is called the Scuba Troopers. So just keep all this in mind as we go along in the guide, okay? I'm gonna leave the guide right here for everyone to see. After Season 2, Episodes 1, 2, and 3, which are the introduction and the first arc to Bounty Hunter Cad Bane, we're gonna skip to the same season, but Episode 17, Bounty Hunters. So you can see that Episode 17 of Season 2 is the first one in this part of the guide, and it's also crossed out because while I really like Embo, who is introduced in this episode, who is kind of like a lanky, quiet alien bounty hunter with glowing eyes, a Kung Lao hat, and some kind of like chimera alien dog that hunts with him. He's super cool, barely speaks. Whenever he does, he only speaks in like short bursts of some alien language that no one knows. And like, he's fantastic. I love him. But again, that's my personal taste. You don't necessarily need to watch this episode. It's kind of just a one-off. It's a really cool episode, but it's largely inconsequential. If you notice, you'll see that most of those first episodes are crossed off, and I'll explain why. So the second arc is very short. It's called the Zillo Beast arc. That's Season 2, Episodes 18, and Season 3, Episode 19. The Zillo Beast is this giant, ancient serpent dragon looking thing that is impervious to lightsabers. Now, the Galactic Senate, they want to make new armor for the clones and stuff like that out of this beast's, like, scales or whatever. The only reason I can think of to watch these episodes is because it features, like, most of the characters in the show. The first episode features a lot of clones, like Rex, Trapper, Hans, Hawkeye, and Mace Windu. The second episode in this arc features, like, basically everyone. Almost everyone in the show is in these episodes. So if you want to watch that, cool. If you don't, totally skippable. It's fine. The next is a one-off in Season 2, Episode 4, called Senate Spy. And that centers around Padme doing a bunch of espionage stuff like I explained in the last guide. Again, if you're into that, if Padme is your girl and you like Padme and you like watching her do her thing, then definitely watch this one. If not, not so much. Again, it's a one-off episode. The story doesn't add or take away anything, at least to me, because again, this is my watch guide. I do it how I want. But it's also important that I don't leave these details out for people that actually do want to watch these episodes. And just because I'm not into them doesn't mean that there isn't cool stuff going on in that particular episode, or that there aren't things to admire about the episode. So after Senate Spy, we pretty much go in order chronologically as well as numerically. So there's not as much confusion as in part 1 in the very beginning where you're bouncing back and forth from seasons a lot. Let's just get through these real quick. So after Season 2, Episode 4, you just go straight to 5. Or you can skip it because this is another one-off. Ki-Adi-Mundi's in it. Clones Cody and Rex are in it for a little bit. If you like Ki-Adi-Mundi, he's that cone-headed guy from Clone Wars. You want to watch more with him in it. Totally watch this episode, otherwise very skippable. The next arc is the first arc that I recommend you actually watch. Everything I have set up until this point is totally skippable. Literally, like, almost half of this season is skippable. This arc in particular is a 3-episode arc that I have dubbed the Padawan Power arc, because it focuses on Ahsoka, who is Anakin's Padawan, and Barriss Offee, who is Luminara Unduli's Padawan. So in this arc, there's a lot of development for Ahsoka. The last episode of this arc features Kit Fisto and clones Pulsar and Scythe, who are kind of just a one-off in this episode. They don't really show up again a lot, but I do like the direction in this particular arc. I like the way Ahsoka's written, and Barriss Offee has a huge role later. Without spoiling anything, Barriss Offee and Luminara are the main reason why I suggest this particular arc at all. What they do here is sort of an introduction to their character, an introduction to their dynamic as Jedi and Padawan, and how that sort of contrasts between Anakin and Ahsoka's relationship, and it's really cool. It's really fun to watch. After the Padawan Power arc, you go to a short series of episodes that are not at all connected. Season 2, Episode 9, Grievous Intrigue, with Jedi Master Eeth Koth and Grievous. This is a nice one-off. I like the episode personally, which is why I recommend it, but it's not super memorable. Again, if you saw Eeth Koth in Clone Wars and you're like, who's that? Who's the guy with the horns and the long hair? And you want to watch him go to work, this episode is cool. Also, Grievous is in it. Because Grievous has a lot to do with Revenge of the Sith later on after this guide, I pretty much recommend any and all episodes with Grievous in them, because if you've never seen Star Wars before, Grievous's involvement later on in Revenge of the Sith holds way more weight than it does if you already saw that before watching this video and before watching Clone Wars. Next, Season 2, Episode 10, The Deserter. Grievous is in that one as well. There's also clones Captain Rex, Commander Cody, Kix, and Jesse, who are two of my favorite non-high-ranking clones. Kix being, I think, the only medic that we ever follow in this whole show. Do you think I'm wrong? Is there another clone that's a medic that we focus on? If there is, leave it in the comments and tell me how stupid I am and how much I don't know about Star Wars. Season 2, Episode 11. Right? Lightsaber lost. Ahsoka gets her lightsaber stolen. There's a lot of development for Ahsoka in this episode, but it's nothing we haven't seen before or will see again. If you care about how Ahsoka gets her new lightsabers, then watch this one. But for me, I don't know. I don't really care about when Jedi switch lightsabers. It happens all the time, and they never explain it. So I never really got into the reasons behind it. From A New Hope to Return of the Jedi, Luke switches lightsabers and switches colors. From The Phantom Menace all the way to Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan switches lightsabers, and they never explain it. So I never really needed an explanation for these kinds of things. But if you like Ahsoka, you want to watch her lose her lightsabers, get new ones, you want to see that develop over the course of a whole episode, then definitely watch this. Now, the next series of arcs is going to cap off this guide, and it's going to bring an end to part 2 of this series of videos. Season 2, Episodes 12, 13, and 14 is what I've called Mandalore Arc 1. This particular arc is really important, except for the last episode. Duchess of Mandalore is very, 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 very political. There's not much action. So if you're into more of the politics of Star Wars and you want to see some courtroom style stuff go down, then definitely watch Duchess of Mandalore. But as far as I'm concerned, you only really need to see episodes 12 and 13 of this arc in Season 2, because the first one's the Mandalore plot. It's the intro to Pre-Vizsla, and the first time you see the Darksaber. The Darksaber is a one-of-a-kind black lightsaber that is really cool, and Pre-Vizsla is the leader of Death Watch, who ends up being a really, really, really important character later on. Voyage of Temptation is Anakin, Obi-Wan, Rex, and Cody. That's sort of the aftermath of episode 12. You get the bulk of it in episodes 12 and 13. 14 is, just throw it in there if you like. The final arc in my guide to Season 2, or Part 2 of the Chronological Watch Guide. The final guide is the Boba Fett arc. If you went and saw Attack of the Clones like I suggested, then you know what happens in that film. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you know what happens in that film, and you know why seeing Boba Fett in this show holds so much weight, which is why I recommend watching this full 3-episode arc all the way through, because it shows a lot of development for Boba Fett, who didn't really do much in the prequels and didn't really do much in the original trilogy anyway. It's an actual reason to like Boba Fett, as opposed to just being like, oh, well, he looks cool, and he's a bounty hunter, he's got an antenna and a jetpack. Episode 20 in this arc is Death Trap. It's the intro to Boba Fett. Aura Singh is also in it, and I think this is the first time we see her as well. And then clones, and the clone Captain Crasher is in it, and Cadets Jax and Whiplash are in it as well, along with Mace Windu. Mace Windu and Boba Fett have a very linear and very negative relationship to each other. Up until this point. It's interesting to see it play out the way that it does in these 3 episodes. So next is R2 Come Home, and then Lethal Trackdown. They all focus on Boba, Aurra Sing, and Mace in some way, shape, or form, and I think it's definitely a fitting end to part 2 of this video and to season 2. That brings this guide to a close. My name is Rainey. This has been another Hearse Boys segment. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Click the bell icon to get notifications for when we upload, and stay tuned next week for part 3 to my guide to the Clone Wars on our road to season 7 of Star Wars The Clone Wars. I'll see you guys for the next guide. Thank you.